All right, welcome to April 14th Java operators meeting. Okay, sharing the screen. So on the agenda, do we have any new faces? I don't see any new ones. All right. So then for community interest, what I was about to bring up, Christoph, was what was in the Java operators chat about one was you were asking for, I guess, feedback on some of the features for Quarkus plugin extension.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other one was about the dynamic namespaces, right? I think that's what
Yes.
you're referring to.
Yes, that is correct. Let me see if I can find them. Oh, that was the one that Attila brought up, the dynamic namespaces, I think, or was that you too? Oh, that was. Yes, that was the
Yeah,
one Attila brought up.
that was Attila, yeah. But I mean, it's related, birds of a feather, right?
Yeah. So my understanding, let me find the issue. There was, I think it was this guy here. 1154. I think the general consensus was just wondering what to do about dynamic. I think in this case, so the original question is how to handle, like, if the operator is running and then you add a new namespace and make changes and dynamically be able to pick them up and start watching new ones. This sounded a little aspect of it sounded similar to some of the RBAC stuff that we had for controller runtime. For RBAC, the dynamic nature of that, they basically said restart the operator to pick up a new one. For the namespace, it seems possible to be able to actually just watch a new namespace based on a config. But this issue is still in discussion, correct? Yes. So just wanted to make.
Yeah, I mean, I think we basically have a solution for that. The idea would be that we would add some support in the SDK to have a kind of a watcher on a config map that could be used as a source for the namespaces to be watched. I mean, there are several ways to go about it. One would be to just restart the operator, right? So that would be faster than restarting the pod. But yet still not desirable. The other solution would be to watch a config map for namespaces. The thing I'm not too sure about is how general that solution would be, like how widely applicable would it be to other use cases or other users, really, because maybe they wouldn't want to use config maps or whatever. It seems rather generic enough to use config map for that purpose. But yeah, the idea would be it's already possible to have, I mean, the SDK already starts informers for the names, for the namespaces the operator watches, right? So in this case, it would be kind of meta operational in the sense that we would have a watcher watching the config map for changes in the names, in the configured namespaces, and if any of them change, then you would just kill the informers that are not being watched, I mean, corresponding to the namespaces that are not watched anymore, and add new ones for the ones that are being watched now, instead of restarting the operator completely. So it should probably work. But Attila marked it in progress, so I guess he maybe started working on it. On my side, I'm completely swamped with other stuff, so I haven't been, apart from thinking about it and about like a possible solution, I haven't done anything else. So, but Attila isn't here, so yeah, I can't tell you much more about it than what's on the ticket.
Just that does sound like just sort of a very much a nice to have type of feature. Like it doesn't seem, is there somebody who specifically like needs this functionality?
I think the person
Yeah,
who
that's,
filed this
It's
cares.
yeah, it's
Paired
for the Apache Flink operator.
Okay.
I think the one problem with the restart was, I don't know if it was this particular person, but someone else also mentioned that their startup actually takes a while, so
Yeah,
they were
that's
trying
what
to avoid that. Oh,
yeah,
maybe
that's
it's
what they
this one.
say. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, the idea is with multi-tenancy, right? And I've started also looking into potential changes down the line with KCP and stuff like that, with workspace and basically things that operators might have to do to support better multi-tenancy. But that's further down the line. But yeah, the idea is that, similarly for managed Kafka or things like that, it's basically a multi-tenant cluster, and they have potentially thousands of namespaces that the operator watches. So you can imagine that if you stop the operator, that's, well, for one thing, that means a downtime for their users, right? And the second thing is, potentially downtime. And the second thing also is that if you have thousands of namespaces that you're watching, that means thousands of informers. And if you stop them, that means basically killing the API server when you restart, because then all the informers need to synchronize their state back again. So if you can just shut down the namespaces on a per namespace basis instead of restarting the operator, it would be much, much more efficient.
I agree. It would definitely be better. I was just the two modes of operation, I think are just generally you either watch the one namespace or you watch all of them. And all of them, I think, takes care of a lot of the multi-tenancy issues, if I understand
Yeah,
that.
but in that situation, it's actually they can't the operator is not allowed to have cluster wide
Sure. Okay.
rights, basically.
Right.
And so I was thinking about that, and I'm like, okay, why don't they do it cluster wide? And they said no, and then I'm like, okay, but if you don't have cluster wide permissions, how do you deal with being able to watch new namespaces? And they said, well, it's an out of band process to add the permissions to the operator out of band, basically. So I'm like, okay, well, then the config map solution should work.
Yeah, I think so. Okay. Cool. And the other one that was the Quarkus extension, which you were asking about some of the dynamic features. Let me see. Let me find it. Sorry. Okay, so the feature was where we had the dev mode in Quarkus and like auto loading the operator, maybe auto loading the CRD. And so you're trying to scale back some of those things, or I guess trim the extension.
Well,
Is that true?
Yeah, changing some of the default behavior that we currently have. So let me think. Right now, the extension in dev mode can apply. Well, actually, that's an issue that I fixed, but you can tell the extension to automatically apply a CRD on the cluster when it's modified. And I'm changing that so that it only would be possible now if you're using the dev mode, so that there's no risk that you do it in production, for example. And part of that change, I wanted to make it so, because right now the default for that behavior is false, because obviously we don't want people to automatically apply the CRD when the operator starts. But part of that change now, since the behavior is limited only to the dev mode or test, or actually when you're using the Quarkus dev mode or you're running tests, so you cannot do it in production. I mean, running the application in a normal way anymore. So the idea was that now it should be basically applied automatically unless you explicitly say no, that you don't want to apply it. So that would reverse the behavior for the dev mode. I mean, I'm not sure I'm being quite clear because I'm kind of brain dead, but it's basically both restricting the existing behavior so that you can never apply the CRD when you're not running locally doing tests or running the operator in dev mode, and reverse and changing the default behavior in those situations where you can apply the CRD to make it automatic by default instead of requiring the user to change a property to do so. Because I mean, at least from my perspective, when you're running dev mode or doing tests, it makes sense to apply the CRD automatically. So that's one thing. The second thing that I was asking about was whether or not people deactivated the automated CRD generation. That's also kind of tied to the dev mode because it's also mainly useful during interactive development, I would say. But yeah, I mean, this part I'm not going to change because yeah, if you're not using the dev mode, I mean, obviously the dev mode is mostly useful when you start your operator and the behavior is not very complex yet and things like that. Because as soon as your operator starts getting complex, usually it's not enough to just restart the operator quickly. You probably have other setup to do. But yeah, so, and I think there was a third point, but I'm not sure what it was. Oh yeah, you put them here. So
there's deactivate CRD, delayed registration of controllers.
Okay, delayed registration of the controllers. Yeah, I removed that in the next version because basically no one was using it, and actually looking at it, it got broken. That feature was broken anyway. So I guess really no one was using it because otherwise I would have heard that it was broken before. Not apply CRD during dev mode, yeah, and yes, not starting the operator automatically. So yeah, I changed that as well, because right now by default, with the Quarkus extension, we automatically, if you don't provide a main class, which is basically an entry point to your application, to your operator application, if you don't provide one, we create one automatically for you. And as part of that process, we also automatically start your operator for you. So now I recently added a property to be able to not start the operator automatically, but the current default is that the operator is started automatically. So now I've changed it so that it's not started automatically. The operator is still started automatically during normal operation, but not during test anymore. So you have to start it manually. So yeah, that's that changed there. Sorry to be so long-winded.
No, that's good. No, that's a good summary of what these two were about. Those are the only community things that I thought might benefit folks. Let me see here. Okay, moving on to the issues. Let's see. There was some triage done on 11/16.
Yeah, just maybe for community interest, we released 3.00 RC1. I think it's RC1 or CR1, I don't recall. So if people could, so that features the dependent resources work. So if people could give it a try, I am working to get the Quarkus extension, actually as we speak, released in version 4.0.0 beta 1, which will use that SDK version. It also features much improved OLM bundle support. So yeah, it's a big release. So yeah, if people could give it a try, I will probably open a pull request as well for the Java plugin, operator plugins project, to be able to use that new version. Actually created a plugin today to update the plugin to the latest version of the Quarkus extension, which is 3.07, and that was released last week, I think. So yeah, I'm not sure regarding the plugin, I'm not sure what the strategy should be there. If we want to have a stable branch and a more experimental version so that people can try it out, newer releases, I don't know. Actually, any visibility on when phase 2 plugins will come into play?
That's a good question. I will find out. The last I heard, the PR was still very close. I think it was just waiting for reviews, no changes. But it's been a week since I've looked, so let me take an action to verify that. Thank you for that reminder. Because then that will free up the updates to that plugin. Cool. Let's go here. 11/16 was this one. So this was done. This was done. Okay, 9 days. This one would probably be the latest one. Should be very dependent resource use case. So cache to actual state. So is this like a design? Okay. This one says needs discussion, so maybe we'll wait for Attila to be back and have more discussion on 1150. Okay. The dynamic namespace we just talked about. And then change back status update to optimistic. Optimistic locking, okay. Found that they're a little different behavior. Okay, so this is just a bug. And
Yeah, that's something I am actually not convinced, but I haven't looked into it. But that's an ongoing topic of discussion, whether or not status should be updated asynchronously or kind of with resource locking. So apparently there's a Fabricate client topic issue on that, but I'm not convinced that Fabricate is canon on the topic of updating status for Kubernetes resources. So yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked into it yet, but yeah, that's something that's on kind of ongoing.
that's fine. Just want to make sure that they're all being looked at. Okay.
Yeah, those. I mean, a lot of that stuff is for the next release. Like Attila has started working on a workflow engine for dependent resources, where basically the well, it's not basic, but it's to make dependent resources more useful, so that you can have kind of flow. I mean, control the flow of what happens to your reconciler based on what happens to its dependent.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, have conditions on dependence, so that if a dependent depends on another dependent, then you don't reconcile it until that condition holds true, things like that. So that requires computing a graph of dependence and yeah, working out what the order of operations and things like that, what order needs to be done, and then yeah, and then we can have more control as to what. Because I think it's also useful for dependents to report their status, so that the main reconciler can take appropriate decisions, or other dependents as well. So that would be quite useful, I think, and I think that's it would be a pretty good feature for the Java operator SDK, because I'm not aware of any other SDK or Kubernetes operator oriented framework that deal with those issues. So
Yeah, that would be cool. Okay. think I looked at this one. It still has the 4. Yeah, I really need to look at getting this scaffold testing. Okay. All right, those are the issues, and this one is for next week. Okay. Anyone else have anything they wanted to discuss or bring up? If not, I'll give you time back. Going once, going twice. All right.